In 2015, chaos erupted across various higher education campuses across the country. Access to higher education had been a powder keg waiting to explode. For nearly 2 decades, inequalities determined who could access higher education in a country of two nations, the rich and the poor. Students couldn't contain their frustrations amidst rising fees. Something had to give. The movement became known as the Fees Must Fall movement. Before this, a series of protests occurred at various campuses across the country with similar demands, but they fell on deaf ears. Student struggles included financial and academic exclusion, lack of accommodation, and lack of food on campus. Prior to the dawn of a new democratic era in 1994, the apartheid government legalized unequal education, keeping the majority black population from participating in the mainstream economy. According to Stats SA, access to higher education for Africans before 1994 was only 9%. On the other hand, white students had a participation rate of 70%. Even though these disparities declined after democracy, access remained limited for Africans. After 1994, the government launched a program to expand access through, among others, a system of financial support called the Tertiary Education Fund or TEFSA. Through it, students could receive bursaries consisting of 60% grants and 40% loans. In 1999, the state established the National Financial Aid Scheme, which later covered students at technical, vocational, and training institutions. Between 1999 and 2013, NSFA's funding grew from 440 million to nearly 9 billion rand to financially eligible students. Despite being dogged by administrative challenges, many students remain excluded.
The apartheid government legislated an education system that closed out previously disadvantaged communities, whether you're Indian, colored. So what the type of education you got was based on the color of your skin.
Magolego Sibiya, now a PhD student in media studies, was a Wits University student at the forefront of the Fees Must Fall protest. Together with his fellow students, they pointed to these inadequacies.
The funding systems are not talking to the realities on the ground. If you are not au fait with English already, there's discrimination happening. And then if you fast forward, you also have the issue of the missing middle.
By missing middle, Sibiya is referring to those students who come from working class households that do not meet the criteria for NSFA's funding, while at the same time, they cannot afford higher education.
If you are applying for NSFA's, how much do you earn? This much. Boom, out. You go to the bank, you can't afford to pay us back. And we don't think that your child can graduate because also we cannot deny the fact that there's racial profiling happening.
By the time the Fees Must Fall movement started in October of 2015, there was already a groundswell of heightened discontent among African students. They bemoaned the lack of transformation in institutions of higher learning. On the 9th of March 2015, University of Cape Town student Tshego Magolego threw human excrement at the statue of Cecil John Rhodes on the university's campus. To him, the statue was a symbol of white supremacy and the persistent colonial culture that excluded those who were not part of it. This action became a catalyst for heightened student activism and movements throughout universities, stimulating political discourse in South Africa and around the world. Magologo's protest drew focus of institutional racism and the need of decolonization of social institutions. Other students joined him, resulting in the birth of Rhodes Must Fall movement. By taking human excrement from Khayelitsha, his actions sought to make a connection with the lack of human dignity given to black people living in townships. Later, in Johannesburg, the University of the Witwatersrand announced a fee increment of 10.5%. It led to a sit-in and lockdown of the university by students and some staff, starting the movement Fees Must Fall.
We debated amongst ourselves, fought amongst ourselves, right, about the black condition.
By Monday, 19th October, fresh negotiations between students and the university had begun. However, the demands of the students seemingly were met with silence.
Leighton Zimanze knew from the beginning of January. He has done nothing. He's been quiet. His silence is nowhere. He's missing in action.
There were a lot of untrained security personnel on campuses who were hostile, who in their mandate or when the briefing happened, it was like a skit and donor type of approach. UJ also had its riot security police.
On the same day, similar protest has spread to the University of Cape Town and Rhodes University. Meanwhile, management at the University of Cape Town, which had announced a 10.3 fee increment the week before, applied and received a court interdict to prevent protest at the university. Students started blocking vehicle access by placing rocks and dustbins onto the road leading onto campus.
The minister was dismissing of students. That angered us more.
The mayhem spread like wildfire across South Africa and globally, with a reported damage of 460 million rand. In the UK, a group of around 200 students gathered at the Trafalgar Square in front of South Africa House to show support of protesting students in South Africa. Feeling the pressure of a country that had erupted into protest, with burning tires being the order of the day, the then President Jacob Zuma announced that there would be no increase of university fees in 2016.
On the matter at hand, we agreed that there will be a zero increase of university fees in 2016.
Whilst this was a major victory for the protest, students were upset that the president chose not to address them directly. A number of students tried to storm the union building, demanding the president to address them. Police responded with force, using rubber bullets. The movement saw many casualties. Tshwane University of Technology student leader Benjamin Phehla was one of them. At Wits University, student representative leader Shaira Kala was shot about 10 times at close range with rubber bullets, sustaining multiple injuries. Whilst over 600 students and student leaders were arrested during this protest.
When things had died down after weeks of just turmoil and not being able to access the institution, everybody was crying. I remember it was lecturers, students who were there, who were talking about just the experiences of violence, of the disruption. We were exhausted and we had to deal with the business of the day still. Some couldn't even deal with it, hence things fell into the following year and all of that stuff. It was painful to see colleagues being arrested and not even getting support after, because you know, sometimes life takes over. Mcebo's case, for instance, is one in point, which dragged on for years, ruined his life. The Devon cases, for instance, I have friends who, or colleagues who've graduated, they hold doctorates, but they can't get employment anywhere because they are follies. They are tainted, right? They are tainted, they come, brilliant minds, but they are tainted, and society doesn't want them, right? Some have criminal records.
The Fees Must Fall movement has shifted the discourse about access to higher education, yet In a country with competing socio-economic demands, research shows it requires an initial 3 trillion rand investment for it to succeed. Seemingly, the struggle is far from over. Tshego Magolego, SABC News, Johannesburg.